After inheriting $20,000 from my late grandfather, I was walking home from the notary's office with one thought in mind, to share the good news with my husband. But as I reached the door, I overheard him talking to his sister about me. What I heard made my face go pale. Before we dive back in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Enjoy the video. Lucy sat in the notary's waiting room, nervously twisting her ID card between her fingers. Her heart was pounding like a trapped bird's, even though there didn't seem to be anything to be afraid of. Just money. $20,000. But to her, a nurse barely scraping by, it felt like a fortune. A gift left to her by Grandpa Edward. Grandpa Edward. She could still hear his gentle voice, see his wrinkled face and those kind eyes that always looked at her with a special warmth. He never spoiled her with expensive gifts, his love showed through attention and care. When she was little, he would spend hours reading her fairy tales, carving wooden toys, and teaching her how to recognize birds by their songs. And later, when Lucy was older, he always made time to ask how she was doing. He listened to her complaints about work, encouraged her, and reminded her that she was strong enough to handle anything. And now this inheritance. It felt like a message from a better, happier time. The notary, a thin woman in a stiff suit, finally came out of her office and motioned for Lucy to come in. The paperwork didn't take long. Lucy signed forms, stamped documents, answered questions, all on autopilot. Her mind was a whirlwind of memories of Grandpa Edward mixed with thoughts about what she could do with the money. When everything was done, the notary handed her the final documents. "Here you go," she said. "Everything's ready. The money will be in your account soon." Lucy took the papers, thanked her, and stepped outside. The autumn air felt especially crisp and fresh. She took a deep breath, trying to steady the trembling in her knees. $20,000. It wasn't just money, it was a chance. A chance to finally breathe, fix some of the family's financial troubles, maybe even get something she'd been dreaming of for a long time. First things first, the washing machine had to go. The old one barely worked, rattled like crazy, and Lucy lived in constant fear it would give out mid-cycle. Then the sofa, it squeaked and sagged and had been begging to be replaced for years. And maybe, just maybe, she could take a short vacation. Just a week away, somewhere by the sea. To warm up in the sun, forget about the sleepless hospital nights, the endless stream of grumpy patients, and the constant pressure of daily life. She imagined telling Ben everything. He was having a rough time too, working 2 jobs just to keep them afloat. He'd be thrilled. They could decide together how to spend the money wisely. Lucy smiled. Tonight called for a little celebration. A bottle of wine, a nice dinner, something special. She could already picture Ben wrapping her in a hug, thanking her, smiling like he hadn't in weeks. Home wasn't far. Lucy walked slowly, breathing in the fresh air and soaking up the early autumn sun. Her mind was full of plans, hopes, dreams. For the first time in a long while, it felt like things were finally turning around. Like all the bad stuff was finally behind them. As Lucy approached the door, she heard muffled voices coming from inside the apartment. At first, she didn't think much of it. Maybe Ben had come home early and his sister Olivia had dropped by. But something about the tone caught her attention. There was something off, like they were hiding something. She stopped and leaned in closer. The voices became clearer. It was Ben and Olivia. "So?" Ben said. "Think she'll go for it?" "Of course she will," Olivia replied. "What choice does she have? You're her husband. Just tell her the money's for something you're doing together, like a family business. She'll hand it over." "I still don't get it," Ben continued. "Why did her grandpa even leave the money to her? There was no one else. I mean, I'm her husband, I should be the one managing the family finances." "Well, you know how it was," Olivia said. "She was always his favorite. He adored her. But money? Come on, she's married now. That means it's not her money, it's both of yours. Exactly, Ben said. It's shared. So I get a say too. But watch, she'll probably act all generous and noble, like she's doing us some huge favor. Keep it all to herself. Lucy stood frozen, like she'd been struck by lightning. Every word hit like a knife straight to the heart. Could this really be happening? Did Ben and Olivia see her as some gullible fool they could just manipulate? Had they only been close to her because of the money all along? She couldn't breathe. Her mind went blank. All those dreams, all the hopes and plans, crumbled to dust in an instant. Gone, like a house of cards. Yeah, she's a rich girl now. 20 grand. Think she'll agree right away? Ben's voice had a cold, predatory edge Lucy had never heard before, or maybe she had, and just didn't want to. Oh, Lucy's sweet. She won't resist for long, Olivia said with a light laugh. You know how badly I want my own nail studio. Rent, equipment. She won't say no if it's for the family. Lucy felt nausea rise in her throat. Olivia's business. She'd heard about it so many times, the studio, the dream that never came true because of a lack of money. And now, apparently, they thought this was their big chance. Like leeches, ready to suck her dry without even asking how she felt about it. Of course she won't say no, Ben said smugly. We'll just explain that it's for our future. That should do it. Olivia giggled. You're unbelievable, Ben. Anyway, I just hope it works out. I'm sick of being broke. This kind of luck doesn't come around every day. Lucy leaned back against the wall, trying to stop her knees from shaking. She had always thought of Ben and Olivia as her family, people she could trust, people she cared about. She'd shared everything with them, her happiness, her struggles, her fears. She'd supported them through tough times. And them? They were plotting behind her back, dreaming about how to take the one good thing that had come her way. Lucy took a deep breath, trying to pull herself together. She had no idea what to do next. Should she walk in and confront them? Pretend she hadn't heard a thing and see how it played out? Or just turn around and leave them to their schemes? She straightened up, wiped the tears from her eyes, and deliberately slammed the door so they'd hear it. Ben and Olivia were in the kitchen, drinking tea and chatting away. As soon as they saw her, they fell silent, their faces stiff with forced smiles. Oh, Lucy, you're home already, Ben said, trying to sound casual. We're just having some tea, chatting about stuff. Lucy stepped into the kitchen, doing her best to keep her emotions hidden. She set her bag down on the floor and sat at the table. Yeah, I'm home, she replied calmly. What are you two talking about? Oh, nothing important, Olivia said quickly, avoiding eye contact. Ben was just throwing out some ideas. Ben gave Olivia a quick wink, then turned to Lucy. We were thinking about how best to use your inheritance, he said, trying to sound upbeat. I mean, it's really about the future, about our family. We should be smart about it, so we don't waste the opportunity. Lucy stayed quiet, watching them closely. She could see how uneasy they were, how hard they were trying to cover up their lies. The hypocrisy made her sick. And what ideas do you have? She asked, keeping her voice steady. Well, Olivia has this amazing idea about opening a nail studio, Ben began, and Lucy felt a wave of anger tightening in her chest. She just needs some seed money to get started. We could help her out, use part of the inheritance. It's an investment in our future, really. Lucy looked straight at Olivia, who kept her eyes down, pretending to be shy. What about you, Olivia? Lucy asked. Do you really think I should just give you part of my money? Olivia looked up with a guilty expression. Look, Lucy. I know it's your money, and of course, it's up to you how to use it. But I've been dreaming about this studio for so long. If you helped me, I'd be incredibly grateful. Lucy didn't say a word. She sat there, letting their words sink in. She knew they were lying. Knew they were trying to manipulate her. But part of her wanted to give them a chance, just to see how far they were willing to go. "I'll think about it," she finally said. "I need some time to figure things out." Ben and Olivia exchanged a quick glance. And in that moment, Lucy saw it, they hadn't expected that. They thought she'd hand over the money without question, without resistance. "Of course, Lucy, take your time," Ben said, trying to hide his disappointment. "No pressure. What matters is that you make the right decision, for the good of the family." Lucy got up from the table and walked to the bedroom. She needed to be alone, to think, to breathe, to make a decision. Deep down, she knew her life would never be the same. She could never trust Ben and Olivia again. From now on, she'd have to take care of herself, and her future. She closed the door behind her and leaned against it, eyes shut. Snippets of that awful conversation echoed in her mind, every word soaked in lies and fake smiles. She felt betrayed. Used. But under all that hurt, something else was stirring inside her, something strong. A quiet, fierce resolve. She wouldn't be the naive, trusting girl anymore. Lucy was done playing that role. From now on, she'd see people for who they really were. She'd learn to protect herself, to stand her ground. And she'd prove to Ben and Olivia just how badly they'd misjudged her. Opening her eyes, she looked at herself in the mirror. There were no more tears, no confusion in her gaze. What she saw now was fire, determination. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. But she was ready. Ready to fight for her happiness. Ready to fight for her freedom. The next day, Ben acted like nothing had happened. He greeted her with dinner, a kiss on the cheek, the usual questions about her shift at the hospital. Lucy answered out of habit. A lump in her throat made it hard to speak. She watched him, the way he moved, the way he served himself food, and it all felt fake now. Every word, every gesture, rehearsed. After dinner, they settled on the couch in front of the TV. Then, casually, as if it were nothing, Ben brought it up. "So, Lucy, how's the inheritance coming along?" Lucy felt a chill run through her. Here it was. She kept her face calm. "It's all done. Everything sorted," she replied. Ben lit up. "That's great. Maybe we should think about investing it. So many opportunities right now." Lucy said nothing. The sweetness in his voice made her stomach turn. She couldn't believe she'd never heard it before. "I haven't decided yet," she said eventually, keeping her tone as even as she could. "I'm still thinking." Ben frowned. "Thinking? What's there to think about? Money should work for you, Lucy. Letting it just sit there is a waste." He slid closer on the couch and took her hand. Goosebumps rose on her skin, not from affection, but from disgust. "You know, Olivia's at a really important stage right now. She's been dreaming about her own business for years. Some financial support would mean the world to her." Lucy pulled her hand away. "So you want me to hand over part of my inheritance to your sister for her business?" Ben forced a smile, but irritation flickered in his eyes. "Not hand over, invest. It's an investment in the future. If it works out, we all win. And if it doesn't?" Lucy shot back. Ben waved a hand. "Oh, come on. Why jump to the worst-case scenario? Olivia's smart. She's thought it through. She just needs some seed money, and you're in a position to help her." At that moment, Lucy felt something break inside her. All her doubts, all the hope she'd been holding on to, every attempt to justify his behavior, gone. Crushed. She looked at Ben and saw a stranger. A greedy, calculating man who was ready to use her for his own gain. "No, Ben, she said firmly. I'm not going to share. This is my money, and I'll decide what to do with it. Ben jumped up from the couch. What do you mean you're not going to share? Are you serious? Since when are you so selfish? Did you forget who stood by you when things were tough? Did you forget everything I've done for you? Lucy stood up to face him. I haven't forgotten anything, Ben. I remember it all. And I'm grateful. But that doesn't mean I owe you my money. You don't even need it, he shouted. You're a nurse, you make next to nothing. But Olivia, she's got talent, she's got potential. You should be thinking about the family, Lucy. The family, she repeated bitterly. You mean you and your sister, plotting behind my back? Dividing up my inheritance like I'm some clueless idiot? That's what you call family? Ben froze, his face turning red with anger. He clearly hadn't expected her to fight back. You were eavesdropping, he hissed. Lucy didn't answer. She just stared at him, her eyes filled with hurt and betrayal. He couldn't hold her gaze and turned away. Yes, I was, she finally said. And I heard enough to know exactly what kind of person you are. He opened his mouth to explain, to defend himself, but Lucy stopped him with a gesture. Don't. No more lies. I know everything now. She walked over to the window and looked out at the night city. The lights twinkled in the distance like little beacons of hope. But that hope no longer had anything to do with Ben. It was hers alone, tied to her own future, her own freedom. You know, Ben, she said quietly, without turning around, I always thought we were partners. That we were building something together. But now I see it, you're not a partner. You're a parasite. Ben said nothing. He stood there in the middle of the room, stunned and angry. He had lost control, and it was driving him crazy. Lucy turned to him. I don't want to live in this lie anymore. She walked out of the room, leaving him behind. And for the first time in a long while, she felt free. The fear of the unknown was still there, sure, but it was nothing compared to the relief of breaking free from the weight of lies and betrayal. That night, Lucy couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what came next. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. But she was ready for it, because now, she had a goal, to rebuild her life, honestly and on her own terms. And deep down, she knew she could do it. The morning greeted her with cold autumn rain. Lucy got out of bed and walked to the window. Raindrops slid down the glass like tears. But there were no more tears in her heart, only determination and hope. A thought of Grandpa Edward flashed through her mind. She pictured his kind eyes, the way he used to speak with such wisdom and warmth. He had always believed in her, even when she hadn't believed in herself. And now, standing on the edge of a new life, she felt his support more than ever. Thank you, Grandpa, she whispered. I won't let you down. For the next week, Lucy lived in a haze. She went to work, cared for her patients, went through the motions, but her thoughts were somewhere else. Back in that apartment that no longer felt like home. Sensing that something was off, Ben suddenly became more attentive, almost caring. He brought her coffee in bed, asked how she was feeling, showed interest in how her day had gone. But Lucy didn't buy it. Behind the sudden tenderness, she saw only fear, fear of losing his access to her money. She didn't argue, didn't start fights. She just watched as the last of her illusions crumbled. Every sweet word from Ben, every touch, filled her with disgust. She wanted to scream, to run, to disappear, but she held it together. She knew she had to stay strong, to think things through and do everything right. At night, when Ben was asleep, Lucy would quietly get up and take care of her plans. She started packing. Not everything, just the essentials. Clothes, documents, photographs. She moved her money into a new account. She researched divorce laws, property rights, how to protect herself. She was scared. Scared of being alone, scared of starting over from scratch. Scared of what lay ahead. But the fear didn't paralyze her, instead, it gave her strength. She knew she had to break free from the web of lies and deceit. She had to rebuild her life from the ground up, on her own terms. Her grandparents' apartment had been sitting empty. Ever since they passed away, Lucy couldn't bring herself to go there. Too many memories. Too much grief. But now, in the middle of everything, the apartment felt like a lifeline, a quiet place where she could heal and find peace. One morning, after Ben had left for work, Lucy called a moving van. She quickly packed the rest of her things, loaded them up, and left. No note, no call. She just vanished. The apartment greeted her with silence and the scent of dust. Everything was just as she remembered: old furniture, yellowing wallpaper, faded photos on the walls. This was where she'd spent her childhood. This was where she'd felt safe and loved. Lucy opened the windows to let in the fresh air. She looked around and realized how much work there was to do. The place needed cleaning, repairs, new furniture. But she wasn't daunted. On the contrary, she felt energized, full of purpose. She knew she could do it. She could turn this forgotten space into a warm, welcoming home. A world of her own. The first thing Lucy did was call in a team of workers. She ordered new laminate flooring, fresh wallpaper, and brand new plumbing. She wanted the apartment to be bright, clean, and comfortable. She didn't cut corners on materials, she wanted everything done right, and done to last. While the renovations were underway, Lucy started working on the divorce paperwork. She found a good lawyer who helped her file the documents and made sure her interests were protected. She didn't want anything from Ben, just one thing: freedom. The renovation took several weeks. In that time, Lucy managed to transform the apartment. She bought new furniture, hung photos on the walls, and filled the space with warmth and peace. It became a place where she could finally feel safe. When it was all finished, Lucy threw herself a little celebration. She bought a bottle of wine, lit some candles, and sat at the table. Looking around, she smiled. For the first time in a long while, she felt happy, and free. Almost all the inheritance had gone into fixing up the apartment and paying for legal services. But she didn't regret a thing. That money had bought her independence, a home, and, most importantly, herself. To make ends meet, Lucy picked up a part-time job at a private clinic. The work was tough, but it brought her a sense of fulfillment. She felt useful, like she mattered. She helped people, eased their pain, gave them hope. Over time, Lucy got used to her new life. She learned how to handle the challenges, to find joy in the little things, to value her freedom. And she stopped thinking about Ben and Olivia. They faded from her life like a bad dream. One day, Olivia called. She apologized. Said they'd made a mistake, that both she and Ben regretted everything. Lucy listened in silence, then simply hung up. She had nothing to say to those people. They had betrayed her, lied to her, crushed her trust. She wanted nothing to do with them. Lucy no longer trusted people blindly. She had become more careful, more guarded. But she hadn't lost her kindness. She still helped those in need. She still gave love and care where it was needed. One evening, sitting in her kitchen with a cup of tea, Lucy reflected on everything she'd been through. She realized that Ben and Olivia's betrayal had been a lesson. It taught her to value herself. It taught her strength and independence. It taught her not to trust blindly. She looked at the photo of Grandpa Edward on the table, smiled, and whispered, "Thank you, Grandpa. You helped me find myself." Lucy felt a wave of gratitude. She realized that his inheritance hadn't just been about money. It had been a gift of strength, of wisdom, of faith in herself. She stood up and walked to the window. Not revenge, but peace and order, that was her true victory. Lucy understood that the best way to respond wasn't by getting even, but by building a life so full and beautiful, it would make them regret ever trying to break her. She wanted to be happy, successful,